to degrade the
disgusting.
Israelis.
It is
I'm
pitting
trying to
two groups
degrade
of oppressed people against one another. It's gross. It's anti-leftist. Honestly, I think it hinges of nationalism that as a leftist, I think maybe should offend both of us.
I came here to talk peace, and then this is what you get. Like, you see, this is
I
the fucking
don't like
problem, man.
after three conversations with you. You every time you come with no substance. It's all aesthetic. And this conversation was the aesthetic of peace. So you emailed me and you wanted to talk about the Ukraine Peace Summit and the Peace Summit stuff. This is our, how many times is this us talking now? Is this our second or third conversation?
I think this is our third
gifted membership, appreciate it. This is our third conversation, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, the first conversation was on LonerBox's stream. And it was a bunch of stuff. I think some statistics around Mariupol death data, some narratives about the war, etc. It was too all over the place for me to remember the exact tenor of the conversation, every detail. I think it was like over an hour long. But there was that conversation. Our second conversation had to do with, I think it was just primarily you asking me questions about the war, but it seemed the tenor of the conversation seemed to be why leftists should be more concerned about Palestine than the war in Ukraine, which was a conversation that I thought was, to put it lightly, like it felt virtue signaling. It didn't feel like it had much substance to the idea. Like for me, I always thought you can care about like multiple wars. You can care about one war. You can care about another war.
No, it's not about caring about multiple wars. It's about that there's certain aspects of the left right now, as we have seen right now with Brianna Wu. There are basically jingoistic Captain America, like, pro NATO, pro this, pro Israel army, pro that, so that's the problem. So there's a certain like aspects of the left that are like that have become very jingoistic and very militarized, and they see as the USA or the empire as their paternal, like like they're somebody that take care of them, like something a force for good, for the proletariat cause. So that is where I disagree on you, that the expansion of NATO, the US empires and its hegemony, those things, like as a leftist, I really don't care about. As a proletariat, I really don't care about. As a working man, I really don't care about. Like,
you don't care about the proletariat?
No, I'd say I don't care about the hegemony of the United States or NATO or like of them expanding their power. I'm not going to be jingoistic, waving the flag, yeah, America. And I think there's certain parts of the left that are becoming like very jingoistic, militaristic in that certain sense. Like back in the Iraq War days, what's that country song? We're gonna put in your ass, the red, white, and blue. That so.
Well, I don't know. For me, this feels like choosing aesthetic over substance.
No, it's not about aesthetic.
No, it does, because when you talk about militarism, right? When I think of militarism or like militarism gone amok, I think of the idea that like every solution requires the army, right? The idea that we have a big army, therefore, instead of solving things diplomatically or instead of, dealing with, for example, what would be a militaristic solution to the drug crisis or the cartels? Just bombing Mexico into oblivion. We'll take care of the cartels that way, instead of trying to, for example, work with the government in Mexico, trying to find some local solution, trying to collaborate so we can try to bring down violence across the border, bring down drug smuggling. Like, there would be a militaristic solution to this. There'd be a non-militaristic solution to this. For me, defending Ukraine, we tried the non-militaristic option from 2014 all the way to 2022. And then after the Russians invaded, you have to defend yourself. And if we've gotten to the point as left-wingers that shooting back at the invading army, filling mass graves, is considered jingoistic or too militaristic, when we made these commitments, both us and the Russians in the 90s, then we've completely pussified our movement. And we've made it more about, like, holding daisies and singing Kumbaya than about actually, fighting for justice. The type of leftist I like is somebody who's out there like, I'm going to fight for healthcare for everybody. I'm going to fight for housing for everybody. I'm going to go out there and fight for workers' unions. I'm going to fight for workers' co-ops. I'm going to fight for workers' rights. But then we get on the international stage. We can't even fight for an ally we promised to protect in the 90s for the goal of nuclear non-proliferation. Like, it's just jingoism. We're using the word way too broadly here.
No, I'm not using it way too broadly because it's not just about Ukraine war. It's about many things that
But you made it
like.
about Ukraine war versus Palestine in
Okay,
the
yeah,
last
yeah,
conversation,
yeah,
and
yeah. No, okay, that is a very stark one because like there's like NAFO and all of them that are very pro-Ukraine, and some of
would
them
you
are
say
very
NAFO is a
anti.
representation of the left?
Let me just finish, okay? NAFO and like no, they're leftists though. Like there's quite a
What do
few
you
leftists of
wait?
them.
Okay, NAFO is just as far as I know, because I was there when it was started, and I've met a lot of NAFO
Mm-hmm.
people. I've seen NAFO
Mm-hmm.
like military donations on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
They are full of right wingers. They're full of leftists. They're full of centrists. They're full of like religious zealots. They're full of people who are not religious zealots. The only thing that unites NAFO is two things. Number one, being incredibly
Mm-hmm.
stupid dogs, which I love, and
Mm-hmm.
number two, being against Russian disinformation and being pro-Ukraine. That's the only thing that unites them, and they keep it broad in order to build a broad fundraising coalition to support Ukraine. It's not a left-wing, right-wing thing. It's just a we don't like it's a don't like Russian disinformation and want to support Ukraine thing. So I would not say that they're a representation of the left. I know many NAFO people that immediately when we move over to any other topic, we disagree on basically everything.
All right, gotcha. All right, so my mistake then. All right, but okay, if not NAFO, like there's quite a few other leftists that are not just but in the Ukraine case, like they're so very pro-Ukraine. Oh, you have to defend them and like this and like that. But when it comes to Palestine, just like I don't know, even though we've seen like so many, like for example, your friend guy you guys accuse me of stalking. Anyway, but yeah, when it comes to Palestine, he goes to Israel, hangs out with Omar, hangs out with Destiny.
Oh, you cut
And
out for a
Destiny.
second. I think you got to understand the internet over here is a little janky. You cut out. You said something about stalking, and I missed everything around that.
Okay, cool. Let me repeat myself. So, let's just talk about your friend LonerBox. Yeah, like people like that accusing me of stalking him.
Mm-hmm.
He like
Wait,
he's
LonerBox accused you of stalking him. Could you tell me why LonerBox accused you of stalking him?
okay. Well, it's not stalking. No, it's not stalking. No, what I put out
Okay.
because
By the way, I just want to say most stalkers will
mhm.
say it isn't stalking as they are stalking. I'm not saying that that's. I'm just saying that.
We're not
Yeah.
even in the same country. No, I work for an organization, and like we put up an idea that like LonerBox once he went to Israel, and he when I first debated him, I was just trying to figure him out and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But recently, like I have seen, it's just like bright as day is open for me that he's a shill for the Israeli government.
Look
Yeah,
for
and
wait, when you say shill for the Israeli government, do you mean that he has said things that could be considered sympathetic to the Israeli government or pro-Israeli government in certain instances, or do you mean like he's literally being paid by the Israelis to make propaganda for them? What do you mean by shill?
yeah, well, the second part, like the latter, like I mean, it
Oh, so
sounds like it
he's
because.
being paid by the Israeli government to make propaganda for them.
Well, I mean, I don't see why. Like, I mean, I don't see how you can explain all the stuff he says, all the lies he puts out there,
Well, I
if he's
mean,
not
it could
getting
be that
paid.
he disagrees with you. That could be an option, I would think.
No, 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 no. It's not a point of disagreement. Okay, no, look, he portrays himself. Okay, he portrays himself. The problem is like how he portrays himself. The problem is like when we come to this argument, this one how he portrays himself. Like
Mm-hmm.
he portrays himself as, oh, I am benevolent. I am just a
Yeah, he does tell me
peacemaker.
that often. I
Yeah,
met him the last time I was in Scotland. He was like, Dylan, I don't think people recognize how benevolent I am.
he didn't say that word for word. Huh?
He said that word for word as we were getting empanadas. He said that word for word.
Yeah, well, like that's my problem. Like he
Yeah.
portrays himself in a certain way, but there's a darkness that lies beneath, and like
I
there's
saw
a
it in
way
his
how he
eyes,
twists.
man. He had a twitch
Yeah,
about him.
okay. No, I talk about like his modus operandi in general. But anyway, let me finish. Okay, so he portrays himself as a he just wants peace and like he's talking for both parties, or like so I try to go on his debate. I talked to him a couple of times, and I was just like, maybe this guy doesn't know what he's talking about and everything. Like, so I go on his Discord, I talk to certain people.
Mhm.
This whole Discord is full with Zionists. I don't know what's going on here, man. Like, so how can you explain that? Like, it's full, like, and not only that. Okay, so they make jokes about like doubling the dead babies, dead kids in Palestine.
Like
They
Lonerbox makes these jokes?
No, like his all his fans, like basically his some of
All
his
of his
moderators too, and
fans are making jokes about killing more Palestinians.
that's just like a couple of them, yeah. Like that's some,
Okay,
and
so a
like they
couple
don't
of
get
them.
kicked
You
off.
just went from all
Okay,
of them to a couple of them. That is a change. But okay, maybe that's
okay, all right.
possible. I have a big
I know,
audience.
but let me finish.
LonerBox has a
Let me
big
finish.
audience. I mean, relative to I guess definitely online political streamers. If you have like
Mhm.
500 to 700 people watching any time, I'm sure there's probably a few bad apples in there.
No, but this is, I mean, this is like the whole group. If you put anything pro-Palestinian on there, they
Uh-huh.
will attack you.
The whole
They will
group.
attack you. I'm telling you, the whole group. I never see anybody that is pro-Palestinian on there. Like, I mean,
Never.
it's
You've
everything.
never seen anyone pro-Palestinian in his Discord or on his show?
When I was there, yes. Well, when I was there, yes. Like, and not only that, okay, so they said they make those jokes when I was talking about I try to bring up to the chat group, right? Why don't they just talk about the rape accusation against Hamas? When they talk about the children that were sexually abused in Israeli prison, like there's thousands of children, and like people say, oh, they deserve it, they're terrorists. The moderators don't do anything, like, oh, and I got kicked out of his Discord, yeah, because I said. Hey, look, Ashkenazis are from Europe, and there's not what do you call it, huge proof that says, oh, like 4,000 years ago, these people from Israel, they immigrated to Russia and they changed their name to Vladimir and
Okay. Okay.
Smotrich and
Can I be
etc.
honest with you?
So I guess,
Can I
yeah,
be honest with you? I don't give a single
yeah,
fuck. Okay? None of this I give a fuck about the LonerBox stuff. I'm not LonerBox's father. Okay? If you have a beef with
mm-hmm,
LonerBox, you'd probably have to discuss it with him because half of the stuff you're talking about, I don't know. I'm not like crip walking in LonerBox's community and like talking to the people on the ground. That's not something I'm doing. So,
mm-hmm.
can you get to the premise of what you wanted to get to with the LonerBox thing? I don't need to hear every specific detail about what all of LonerBox's fans did to be mean or whatever.
Okay, no, okay. So my point is that, and he, when all this stuff happens, he goes to. There's many lies he puts out there. He
Yeah.
doesn't report on. He doesn't report on. Anything that bad happens about like recently. They were talking. They put a prisoner on. They use him as human shield and one of their
I
military
saw that
trucks, and they were
video.
driving him around. Yeah. No report on that on LonerBox channel. Anything that the Israelis do bad, he doesn't report anything bad about
He's
it.
never
So
reported
that's
anything bad about it. Didn't he talk about the World Central Kitchen bombings? I remember that.
okay. Look, maybe I'm what do you call it? Over exaggerating, but mostly he doesn't report like the
Okay.
bad things that Israel
So now
does.
we went from
Mostly
he
the
doesn't to mostly. How many more
mostly.
instances would I have to find for it no longer to be mostly? Would I have to find 3 or
All
4
right, well,
or
all right. Yeah, thank you for correcting me. Okay, thank you for correcting me.
okay.
Thank you for
It's just look,
correcting me. But
I'm trying he's not in the room, right? We're now debating a person who's not here. So, and I don't
yeah.
I like LonerBox's. I watch LonerBox's content maybe like once a week, but I'm not watching it like constantly. So I don't know the
Mm-hmm.
full stream or like the different levels of what he's talking about. But
Mm-hmm.
LonerBox, as far as I've seen him cover
Mm-hmm.
uh, Israeli atrocities. I've seen him talk about the World Central Kitchen bombing. I remember him talking about the Orthodox Church when it got blown up in Gaza. I remember him talking about the aid delivery trucks getting fired upon when it happened and the Israeli tanks opening fire. I remember him talking about historical atrocities like the Nakba before and going through the details and the history and maybe even making even full historical breakdowns of his main channel, literally talking about the history of the Nakba that Hassan reacted to. And it's good to see Hassan actually interacting with real history for a change. So I don't know. From my perspective, I've seen him cover quite a lot. Now that doesn't mean he hasn't lied before. That doesn't mean he hasn't done anything bad before. It's just I haven't seen the LonerBox that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, he took a trip to Israel with Destiny, which is, I mean, I don't know, like his coverage of this thing has been really racial, and I would say so. Like, some of his stuff is racist, and even if you go on his Twitter page, like some of it, like stuff is like just making fun of the Prophet Muhammad, and it just
Made
very
fun of the
ugly stuff.
Prophet
So
Muhammad.
I mean, like, what's Destiny has, of course, Destiny has. I'm not talking about
Okay.
the LonerBox, but like you hang out with a guy like this, you go to Israel and hang out with
Wait.
a bunch of
Okay.
Israelis.
Now
No, no, like let
I'm
me just
not fundamentally an anti-theist, but why should I care about the Prophet Muhammad being made fun of?
No, because it shows your biases in this war. Like, in this war, like, the people
But
that
then
are
like
against,
Destiny's like anti-Islam.
yeah, it's anti-Islam,
Isn't he just
actually,
like generally anti-religious? That he thinks religion is like stupid.
no, I mean, I don't want to go to Destiny right now because like I
Yeah, we're kind of talking about a lot of other. We're talking about a lot of other people.
Yeah,
right
I would open up a bigger kind of worms with him. But what I'm trying to say, like, he goes to Israel at the time, like, his ancestral home, which is Lebanon, is getting like white phosphorus from Israel. Hangs out a bunch of Israeli, hangs out with Ehud Olmert, like, and Destiny as well, like, like the stuff he says is really messed up. And one of his, like, his chat, like, so basically this guy, he's pretending to be something, like, and then trying to become benevolent and try to become progressive at the same time, hanging out with like making excuses for fascists and genocide and everything like that, and like making all sorts of excuses, bending like backward and forward to make excuses for Israel's ethnic cleansing. So we got tired of that. So we try to let people in Scotland know like who this guy is, like the progressive movement. So we need to purge this guy out because we don't need like people that are fake friends. Like,
what is that purge?
Purge as in purge as in like kick him out of the like our spaces, and like like so he can be comfortable home hanging out with fascists and Israeli like supremacists that believe in an ethno state and stuff like that. We don't need a person like that. We don't need fake friends like him. So
Okay,
that's my problem with him.
To be clear, I saw the pictures. What you did is you went to different leftist events with what looked like a multiple page packet of information on LonerBox. If somebody in chat could link it, I guess that'd be useful. I didn't think we were going to talk about this. I thought we were going to talk about something else, but whatever. It was a multiple page packet of you talking about LonerBox, and it was, let's just say, your interpretation of LonerBox's misdeeds against the Palestinian people on behalf of the Zionists, and you call him a Zionist, you call him all these other things, in order to basically paint him in a bad picture so he would no longer be welcome in these spaces. Now, I'm saying, because I haven't read the whole thing, because we only saw the first page from what was posted. But from what I read, it seemed to not paint him in the great light. So your goal is to basically keep him out of leftist spaces because he visited Israel during the war.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Yes, because we don't need fake friends like him. Just like people that are pretending to be like, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want somebody that is like, mildly very pro-Russian, but sometimes say, oh, I'm just both sides, and like hangs out with you. And yeah, very pro-Russian, but I mean, not like just try to play both sides, but actually
someone like you mean?
I'm not for Ukraine, so I'm not.
Yeah, you're against the Ukraine. Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah, I'm not conveying. I'm not lying to you. I'm not conveying. Oh, I'm for Ukraine. I'm not hanging out in Ukraine and telling you I'm from both sides and everything like that. No.
Yeah. So to be clear, would it make sense for me to go to left-wing spaces and say you shouldn't be welcome because you don't support the resistance of the Ukrainian people against imperial and colonial overtakings?
You can do that, but I'm pretty sure the left mostly is on pro-Palestinian side. So
what you just said makes no sense. Why? Okay. Just because somebody's pro-Palestine doesn't mean they're pro-Putin or pro-Russia. Someone can be both pro-Palestine and pro-Ukraine at the same time. I remember going, when I was in D.C. doing the pro-Ukraine marches during the anniversary of the war, I was getting dapped up with a bunch of other pro-Ukraine protesters by pro-Palestinian protesters. It was like occupation everywhere is a crime was a sentiment that I heard on the ground. Now, that's not shared by every pro-Palestinian protester, but you don't need to... Like, it's not like you're either pro-Ukraine or pro-Palestine. You can't. No,
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying though, as a leftist right now, if you're not pro-Palestine, if you go hang out with fascists in Israel and bend backwards to to make excuses for the ethnic cleansing and the ethno state, then I mean you need to get the fuck out. I mean, like, there's certain people I like Brianna Wu as well. Like, I mean, she needs to get the fuck out as well, and everybody in the left as well agrees with me on that.
Everybody in the left agrees with you on LonerBox or Brianna Wu?
Brianna Wu is like LonerBox. Like, that's no, people don't. He's not that popular, and he's not going on like hanging out with like more people in like trigonometry. And he's not calling himself I'm a Zionist, ready and go, sir, to Elon Levy and stuff like that.
I don't know. From the thing that I read for you, it sounded like he was going to personally lead the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. That's what it read. That's what it read like when I read your message. It sounded like this guy was like some infiltrator hired by the Israeli government. And you seem to believe that he's paid by the Israeli government from this conversation. There's no evidence of that. I think that's a bunch of horse hockey nonsense. But like you seem to believe that. Like somebody can just come to those conclusions naturally. They don't have to be paid. And it's not saying that governments don't pay people. It's just I don't think LonerBox would be very quick to disregard his reputation by getting paid by the Israeli government.
Braveness and endurance.
I mean, like any organization. I mean, the Hasbara, like you know how about Hasbara, right? It's a very big organization. Like how basically
Stock, thank you for the 20 pounds, mate. I appreciate it. Sorry, continue.
Yes. So the propaganda machine of Israel, the Hasbara, is one of the like biggest and largest.
Okay,
in the world.
This going to be a big story about how Israel hires a bunch of influencers with no actual evidence that LonerBox was hired? Because if it is, I don't care.
Okay, fine. Like okay, we'll move on. All right.
Thank
like,
you.
So I made my point about
because like again,
okay.
like my big thing is here, and I'll just be blunt with you. I don't care if LonerBox visited Israel during the war. My main concern would be how LonerBox talked about Israel while in Israel, while talking to others, presenting the people he talked to, if any of them are legitimately crazy people. If he's like, this Ben Gavir guy is actually like really reasonable. I'm a journalist, and my like imagine my perfect world, I'd be able to go to Russia and interview the Russian soldiers and be like, so like when you see the Bucha war crimes, like how can you live with yourself being in that uniform still? Like if I in my perfect world, I'd be able to do these things. I just don't live in that world. I know I can't go to Russia and do that. But he can, LonerBox can go to Israel and ask questions. It's a question of like how he performs that I would care about. Like if he just went there and was like, oh, maybe the settlers in the West Bank are not so crazy. Well, what lynchings? I never heard of that. Oh, what protesters that were shot? Then I would question his integrity, because I would be like, what happened when he went to Israel and now he no longer cares about, you know, the Palestinian people having representation? But I haven't seen that shift. I also haven't been watching all of his recent content, so maybe something big has happened recently that I missed. But again, like I just don't see it.
All right. Well, like yeah. I don't think maybe I would recommend to look closer and maybe talk to him a little bit more. But yeah.
Okay. Look, I haven't really watched his Israel content on the ground, but I do want more people to go on the ground and talk to people directly affected by war. And so I do have some stake in the game on the idea that I want him to do that well, because it would suck if people did this and did it bad, and so that discouraged people from doing it. So
okay, so
if he did it, I hope he does
for example. Yeah, all right, fine. But like, okay, Destiny goes around to talk to the main head guy, like the former head propagandist of Israel, Elon Levy, yeah, and he doesn't go.
I don't really know.
Yeah, but they go together to Israel though. Like, and I'm pretty sure they interview other Israelis as well, and basically give them a platform. Basically, so
wait, if it's Israel's top propagandist, why would Destiny giving him a platform necessarily matter? It would depend on how that platform behaved, right? Like if I give Solenyev a platform on my show, that would do nothing for Solenyev. But if I give him a platform and I was like, why are you such a bloodthirsty monster? Then it would depend on the content of the conversation. And again, this isn't LonerBox, this is Destiny.
Yeah, but they went together, and like that's his buddy. So like if they're good buddies, like I mean, and like basically, what do you call it? Destiny was basically sucking Elon Levy's cock, man. That's basically what the interview was. Like, oh yeah, Israel is so great. But anyway, like something like that. But anyway, going to Ukraine and the peace stuff right now, I want to talk to you about. So what is your thoughts on the peace summit in Ukraine?
So I just wanted to make sure. So this third conversation, after two conversations where the first one, you doubted the death data and just called it nonsense. And the second conversation here we had about is why Palestine matters so much more than Ukraine, the largest war in the world currently happening, largest war in Europe since World War II.
As a leftist.
A war that as a leftist, I still think those lives matter. But and I think that the impact it'll have on the future of European security still matters. You know, Ukrainian leftists have a voice, you know, but putting that aside, we're now in the third conversation. So I imagine this time you're here to come tell me how you support the Ukrainian Peace Summit, how you support the Ukrainian people, how the new demands by the Russians from a week ago are outrageous, and you're now, for this third conversation here, just to let me know how much you support Ukraine. Because that would make sense as a leftist after two conversations of you basically being like, do we really need to care that much? At least this third time, that's what you're going to be here to do, right?
No, like this time I'm here to... No, I am for peace though. Like I want to tell you that I am for like in the Ukrainian Russian stuff. I don't. I am for peace.
Wow.
But yeah, I am for peace.
Can I just say that's immensely brave of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You become a comedian, man. But anyway, yeah, I am for peace, and I think like what the Swiss summit shows that European powers are not for peace. But yeah, go ahead though. What do you think about the peace summit?
I think the peace summit is really the only option at the moment. That's my opinion of it. I don't think that the Russians have given any indications that they want to negotiate on terms that are reasonable. I don't think that I think they're giving the exact opposite signals before the peace summit to indicate that they don't want to negotiate anywhere near Ukraine's terms or near terms that I think any European power or anyone who cares any bit at all about nation state sovereignty would consider reasonable. And so what the Ukrainians are doing is trying to create a different framework outside the Russian Istanbul framework that the Ukrainians were being held to at gunpoint at the start of the war, which makes sense because the decision based on this peace framework is mainly going to affect, more than anyone, the Ukrainians and the future of their people and the future of their state, whether it's going to be an economically stable state, whether the families are going to be able to be reunited, whether Ukrainian children that have been kidnapped will be returned to their homes and their families. And so I think that the framework that they're putting forward as to have something to compete against the Istanbul framework, I think it was good enough. There's other stuff I could be like, well, they need to be more aggressive on the environmental repair. They need to be more aggressive on this. But I think it was good enough for the moment, and it was good enough for what they were trying to accomplish.
I thought what they were trying to accomplish was peace. How can you not invite Russia if you're trying to accomplish peace?
It's because the Russians are not interested in peace. And so if you invite a party that's not interested in peace or interested in negotiating in good faith on terms that are reasonable, then you cannot achieve peace.
My guy.
So you got to build, it's an event to build towards a future goal.
No, this whole was a circle jerk between the NATO, the European Union, and Ukraine. Basically,
it's not my fault that the Chinese and the Indians and the South Africans were not interested in supporting the decolonial anti-imperialist framework and were more interested in keeping a positive relationship with the imperial power of Russia dominating in Ukraine. It's not my fault. They could have had those voices at the table to be more critical. There were some nations that did decide to come but did not sign the peace accords. But these nations decided
because
not to come.
Because it made no sense. It made no sense.
Why didn't it make no sense? What part of the peace accords are you like, you know what? This is bad. This is a bad thing that should not be achieved.
Okay, so basically, let's say you and your wife or your boyfriend is getting divorced. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for correcting it and make it say not my wife but my boyfriend. I appreciate that.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, but. I don't know how it works in the relationships. So, but anyway, basically, somebody you love is getting divorced with you. Okay, so the judge or the court, and you have kids together and everything. The judge and the court basically just invites you in for the hearing. The other, or just invite your significant other to the hearing, and basically decides where the kid's supposed to go, how to divvy up the money, and basically you have no say at all. How's that fucking make sense?
Is occurred.
Well, the problem would be. Oh, one second, I got $10 donation. One moment.
Dylan, let me eat this man's heart. Russia started this war. NATO isn't perfect, but Russia is a fascist, ultranationalist, irredentist state that seeks to dominate through force.
Thank you for the $10. I appreciate that, buddy. As for why the Russians aren't there because the demands are so out there, and they would not go to an event like this if the terms are not based on the Istanbul framework. That's the first thing. And the second thing is they would only serve a disrupting purpose at an event like this at this stage. If they've got two totally separate, let me finish. If you don't let me finish, then I don't know why you even asked me the question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
If the Russians have one framework, that's the Istanbul framework, which, as last talked about, still included the disarming of Ukraine as a state. And we're talking about a country that needs an army of 700,000 to 800,000 soldiers to keep the Russians back. And the Russians are demanding they have an army of 70,000. So an army that they could roll over in 5 seconds. For reference, the Ukrainians started the war with 250,000 and had to build up so they could eventually hold the Russians back. So what the Russians are asking for is an army they can quickly crush in the way they originally intended to at the start of the SMO. This is a term which at the time, back in April, the Russians and Ukrainians got stuck up on, with the Ukrainians saying, hey, look, we're willing to negotiate all this other stuff, but if we do this, we're going to be completely disarmed. We have to renegotiate how many tanks we can have. We need to renegotiate this. They weren't even completely batting it off. They just didn't want to agree to the numbers that the Russians asked for because it was a number to disarm them. And that term has never changed. And the Russians are now expanding their terms. A week before the peace summit, the Russians came out and said that they will consider negotiations if the Ukrainians give up the city of Zaporizhia, the city of Kherson, the city of Kramatorsk, the city of Slovansk, the city of Konstantinivka, the city of Chasiv Yar. Once all of this land and territory is accounted for, we're talking about a territory on top of Russia, what has already occupied, that is roughly the size of Taiwan. And that is the precondition to sit down and have a discussion, meaning the Russians could still continue and make more demands for cities like Kharkiv or for things like disarmament based on the Istanbul framework, which they're still pushing for. So if that is the Russian demand, while the Ukrainian demand is get out of my country, give me back my country, they're at such two distinct points that trying to put these two people at the same table right now isn't going to achieve anything. So Ukraine would rather build towards a peace framework that would favor them, get international backing, and then revisit this a year from now, which is what they publicly stated is their goal.
Well, that's a lot of how...
They even said they're going to invite the Russians to the next peace summit once they've rallied enough international
that's
support.
really good. Okay, so here's the points I want to make. So even before the peace summit started, right, they said, what is it called? They're going to take 50 billion from the Russian seized assets and support Ukraine for for the future, for the long haul.
I think it's a too small amount, but it's a nice starting point.
But that's not a good, nice starting point for somebody who wants to make peace, though.
Wait, let me ask you a question. How do we rebuild Ukraine after the war, considering the damage that Russia has done to it? We're talking about 1/3 of its territory covered by mines, demining efforts that would have to take roughly 80 to 100 years. We're talking about cities like Popasna that have literally been wiped off the face of the earth, that the Russians captured and said, it's so destroyed, they're not even going to bother rebuilding it. Mariupol, which the Russians bang their chest about and say we've rebuilt, there's scandal after scandal coming out about these bad contractors they've hired to shoddily rebuild these buildings. How much investment is that going to take? How much investment is it going to take to rebuild the electrical infrastructure? How much to replant in all these forests? I just came back from Let me finish. I just came back from the Sieverninsky forest. The environmental damage there is immense, absolutely immense. How are they going to be able to get all these mines out of the farm fields? All of this is going to take money that the Russians will probably never want to pay. And so the only way I see that we know for sure we can make them pay is by grabbing the assets that they have with companies like Euroclear in Belgium or within the United States, or within the rest of Europe, that we can seize and give to the Ukrainians to both defend themselves and rebuild their country. Unless we're saying, you know what, the West is just going to have to burden that, the Russians are going to have to pay for nothing, or the Ukrainians are going to have to pay for it themselves, and they're going to be stuck in ruins for who knows how many decades.
Okay, so a couple of things I want to dismantle over there. Number one, that money is going to go for warfare. It's not going to go to rebuilding.
It's going to go for both or whatever.
I mean, there's 50. They're going to run out that 50 billion before, before the war are going to finish anyway. They already run out more than $50 billion. So, okay, that's one. Number two, I'm pretty sure they sold a lot of assets to BlackRock and etc. I'm pretty sure America is going to build it over. They built, UK or Germany after World War II. And so basically they're going to be beholden to that.
So America's just going to fix it all. I had no clue that the American companies were all going to come in and fix all of these random rural villages in the countryside that have been smashed to smithereens because there's so much profit to be had with 50 babushkas living in these villages.
Yes. Dude, that's what America did that's how America owned Europe after World War II. Basically,
So you're saying that we have to foot the bill. You're saying it's our problem. We have to foot the bill after the Russians did all the damage, even though we could make the Russians foot the bill.
It's our prize. What the fuck do you mean, man? It's our prize.
What do you mean it's our prize? Make the Russians pay for it. Why would we have to pay for it when the Russians did the damage? We have an ability to seize their assets and make them pay for it.
then we own it. Then
What do you mean we own it? The Russians need to own their damage. They did the damage.
Can I speak Finnish? Can I finish
Let me ask you a
speaking?
question. If Arab countries had, let's say, $300 billion in Israeli assets and their nation states, and they could take that money and give it to the Palestinians once it's all over to rebuild, would you say, no? That would be bad peacemaking. If we want the Israelis to be kindly towards our terms, we have to give them back all of their capital. That's what Jordan and Egypt and Saudi Arabia should do. Give Israel back their money in the name of peace. Would you make that demand?
No, but this is not for the number one.
No, because
Dylan,
the Palestinians deserve love, while the Ukrainians are like spit people. I understand.
My guy, no, that's not what I said. Look, that's actually what you're saying right
that's
now.
That's how you treat them. That from every conversation with you, you think so little of the Ukrainian people. Every conversation.
That's the opposite in the world. That's the opposite in the world. How many years the Palestinians have been occupied? 67 years old. Did the Americans bat an eye? They're still supplying weapons to the Israelis.
What is the speed running? You're just shooting out talking points. My point is, if somebody does immense damage to a territory that they're responsible for, and I don't want to get into the specifics of Israel-Palestine, let's just say that Israel is 100% responsible. Let's remove all nuance from the conversation, and let me just get in your camp, okay? I'm with you. I don't know if I'm with Palestinian Islamic Jihad or if I'm with, Queers for Palestine. I'm in some group. I'm just with you 100%. If that's the stance you have, and you're fine with them paying it back, and you agreed with me, at least tacitly, that the Russians are largely responsible for this war, then shouldn't they be largely paying the reparations, certainly if we can make them pay the reparations since we already have the assets in the West? What's the downside for us? Why would we go out of our way to pay for it ourselves and teach the Russians that they can literally invade countries they've committed not to invade, and we'll give them back their money during the invasion?
So here's the problem, Dylan, where the war is still going on. You're talking about the rebuilding parts, but what we're talking about, though, what the Americans are talking about, what the Ukrainians are talking about, is about winning the war.
Well, yeah, that's one thing you usually have to do before you can rebuild, is the war needs to come to a standstill.
That's what we're trying to do, but
it's also rebuilding. They also need to rebuild areas like their electricity grid in Ukraine right now. I don't know if you know this, but in Ukraine right now, part of the reason why I keep losing disconnection and stuff is because power goes on and off because the Russians have purposely targeted the electricity grid to make it so that the Ukrainians going into winter won't be able to have heat, won't be able to have good electricity. And we have these assets in the West that we could take when the Russians are purposely doing this, and we could spend it on these initiatives. And we're gonna say no.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't look. That money is for fucking warfare. What are you talking about? That money.
By the way, why is that bad? Why would that be bad for the Ukrainians to win or to hold the territory they have? The Russians have clearly stated they want to take even more land. The Russians are being maximalist about this war. My
point is, though, when you begin a peace conversation, you don't say we're going to support $50 billion more for the war effort.
Well,
that's my point, man.
Look, the problem. You want to negotiate. See, on the let me ask you this then. Mm-hmm. Would you tell Iran to stop sending weapons to Hezbollah or to any Palestinian groups right now?
If they were about to negotiate a peace deal,
let me finish.
Look, but this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the peace deal, right? So we're talking about, there's a peace summit coming up in a couple of weeks, right?
This is a very cutesy way to dodge the question, man.
No, I'm not. This is what happening.
So you're going to call for Iran on the show to stop sending weapons to Hezbollah and Palestine.
If there's a peace summit coming up in a couple of weeks,
if there's a peace summit, if there's anything that's labeled peace summit, then they have to do it. But for now, then you want them to keep sending the weapons. It's only if they do something called peace summit, then you would say no, never mind. You have to stop.
At the end of the day, if peace, so
to be clear,
the end goal is the peace.
As a leftist, you want Iran to send Hamas weapons, the jihadist Islamist organization, horribly just homophobic, terrible things, but they're fighting against the Israeli occupation, so they're doing that thing. So send them the weapons because they meet that end in your worldview. But Ukraine, no, because they're hosting a summit where they're trying to rally people around their peace proposal for when the war ends. And because they use the word peace, they can't get any more weapons or bombs because that would be against the aesthetic of something like a peace conference. So lessen their leverage going into any negotiation by stop sending them weapons. This is ridiculous. If we're going for a peace conference, they're going to need weapons to have strong backing for the negotiations. Would you tell Hamas to disarm before any conversation if you wanted them to be acting as the person trying to attain Palestinian sovereignty? And unless you're telling me you do want Hamas to unarm because you don't think that there's someone who could do that or should be involved in that conversation. Because I don't
all
know
right,
your
let me, okay. All right. Calm down. All right, let me just explain. All right, we're talking about peace here. I'm not here to make war. We're talking about peace here. All right. Like I know we disagree on many things, but I'm here to make peace. I'm not here to make war. We're trying to discuss peace. So while I'm talking about peace, let's not get derailed on other stuff. Okay. So my point is about this whole situation, this whole shindig, is that the West is not trying to make peace. You know, that's my point, and how the world should go about going peace, because that's why the Indians didn't sign it. That's why the South Africans didn't sign it. That's why many countries didn't sign it, because
the
they know
Indians and South Africans didn't
just
sign it because they're friendly with the Russians. They're friendly with the imperial power, and they don't want to piss them off. They showed a moment of weakness that is a disgrace to people from their legacy. Like I would say, maybe like Nelson Mandela or others. And it's honestly gross. It's disrespectful to their legacy. They're spitting on their graves. And I think that the opposition is right to critique the leadership of South Africa for that.
Okay, going forward as well. Like after the peace summit, they signed the defense contract deals. Yeah. And so basically, this is just a show not to make peace. So this is like they're ramping up the war. You also have talked about this. They're ramping up the war. So basically, this whole peace summit was a sham. So what my question to you right now?
This is all about aesthetics to you. Is all politics about aesthetics to you? Because like a peace summit, and then I've told you about the goals of this peace summit. The peace summit's goal is an immediate achievable of peace. If we had peace summits on Israel and Palestine, and the only goal we could achieve is immediate achievable of peace, then none of it would achieve anything. Because
no, but at least you have to invite the other guy. At least
goal that's going to take a lot of effort and planning, and many people have tried. Many people have tried to find peace between Ukraine and Russia, not just in the last 3 years, but between 2014 and 2022, and even before that, from other administrations, from the Russian Empire, from other people. And so there have been many people who have tried to do that. And so saying, oh, we're trying to find some way towards peace, so while we're doing that, don't give Ukraine any more support. We saw what happened when we took that policy, even if we did it by accident, or I would say not by accident, by sabotage, by stopping to send, shells and other equipment to the Ukrainians. And it led to more deaths on the battlefield. It led to the Russians destroying more cities. It led to the loss of cities like Avdiivka that's been held by the Ukrainians in sturdy, bitter defense throughout the entirety of the ATO. It had very negative consequences. And so when I hear somebody advocating that for the aesthetic of peace as a leftist, it gets me, it gets me a little heated, and it makes me think that they don't really care about the people.
It's not about aesthetic.
It's about the aesthetic of peace.
What are you talking about? It's not about aesthetic of peace. The fuck do you mean, man? Let me just say this.
I mean that you don't care what happens on the ground, and you care about making sure that Putin flutters his eyes at the offer.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, if you want to make peace, you gotta reach out, at least do on the to talk on the table. You don't start making peace by first of all talking about giving more money for the war fund. Number two, and then making more.
If I want peace during World War II. Right? Would the solution be to stop giving the Soviet Union weapons?
There's not World War II. We're not talking about,
if I wanted to make peace during, let's say, the Gulf War, would the solution be just give Saddam Kuwait, and there's certain scenarios where just talking about peace or not arming yourself while talking about peace is either going to leave you without peace and in a worse position, or without peace and dead. And if the Ukrainians don't gather weapons, let's put it this way. Let's say that we stop sending weapons and we stop sending aid, and we say, okay, we're not going to seize anything. And the Russians say, and it's your dream scenario. The Russians say, well, now the West has respected Russia and the Great Bear and its claims to its imperial clay, which even if that's not how you talk about the Russians, that's how the Russians talk about themselves, right? That's how the Russians, they talk about themselves as an empire. They talk about themselves as imperialists. They're open about this. They come, they sit down, they talk, and they say, we still have the same demands. Give us Zaporizhia, give us Kherson, give us all of these locations. What do we do then? Do we say, okay, Ukraine, you have to give up even more territory, the territory the size of Taiwan? Or
that's not what I said. Jesus Christ, man.
Let me finish. God, you want that immediate dopamine rush.
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
That's why I'm saying,
okay.
Would it be that, or let's say they say that and we're like, okay, fine. Peace talks didn't work. We walk away. But in order to have peace talks, from what you're suggesting, we would need to stop sending weapons. We would need to stop.
That's not what I said. We
would need to certainly not get things to help the Ukrainians defend themselves better. And so, we're not taking the steps necessary for Ukraine to be strong in the case that negotiations fail, which is the 90% likelihood, considering where both of their positions are, 90 to 95%. And so when they do fail, and then we haven't been taking these decisions to get them the air defense or to get them the money from Russian assets or to give them whatever they need to defend themselves, the Russians are going to be taking those decisions. They are going to be picking economists to head the Russian Defense Ministry. They are going to be making the decision to raid migrant facilities or facilities with tons of migrants to force them into the war effort. They are going to be talking about shadow mobilization. They are going to be making investments and selling off assets to the Chinese in order to take more capital and invest it into the war economy. And while they're doing that, we're going to be told to sit on our hands out of fear of offending the Russians after the Russians started the largest war in Europe since World War II. This is the pussification of the left. This is an anti-militarism.
All right, you made your point, but okay, so what is your parameters on peace? Do you believe that Ukraine can take all the Crimea and all of the conquered territories?
It depends on the conditions. I don't look at history passively. If aid is consistent to Ukraine and the Russians continue to feel tightening sanctions against them and the Ukrainians take the difficult decisions necessary for mobilization, as I believe that they started to do last month in the month of May, when they recruited more people in 1 month than in the 6 months prior, while the Russians grind on and on and on in this war with no end in sight, I do think that the negotiations could go a lot differently than if we were just to secede to Russian demands now. Say 2 years down the line, maybe they don't get everything back, but maybe they get the majority of their land back. Maybe they get back to 2022 land. Maybe they do get everything back. But I'll tell you one thing. What the Russians are demanding right now is subjugation. It's a continued view of the Ukrainians as lesser. It's a continued view of the Ukrainians to be subjugated, as their border regions to be conquered. And they're using justifications that are neo-colonial and imperial that I think, as a leftist, if you do not feel this inherent fire in your chest to fight against, then I question your left-wing credentials.
My guy, I'm trying to ask what peace is, and then you go on to
you ask me what is achievable, and then I tell you it depends on doing this, and this, and then I followed up with some.
No, my guy, no. Look, I'm trying to talk to you. So basically, at the end of the day, you have to negotiate with the Russians, right? Yes or no?
Yeah, we negotiate their retreat. Yeah.
What? You negotiate.
You negotiate withdrawals usually. You negotiate. We negotiated with Robert E. Lee Grant. They called them unconditional surrender grant, but that usually came after a conversation a little bit.
That's how you negotiate peace. Are you serious? You want do you want to negotiate peace right now and stop the war, or you want to say, we're not going to stop the war?
Would I like to negotiate peace right now and stop the war? Absolutely, but it depends on what cost? Because if I said we could have peace between China and the United States right now, but that took the subjugation of Taiwan, that took China dominating the entirety of the South China Sea, taking islands from the Philippines, taking islands from Vietnam, taking islands from Japan. Like, the math here is different than just the notion of peace as an overarching positive concept which everybody likes. Of course, everybody likes the overarching concept of peace, but there is nothing more poisonous than shattered freedom. And when we talk about giving the Russians not only the land that they've already took, which is 20% of the territory, but another chunk of territory the size of Taiwan, then yeah, I think that
you keep saying that. You keep saying that. Can I speak for? Look, you spoke a lot, man. Let me speak. All right. Okay, you spoke all about that. I think you're a very passionate guy. Okay, fine. Finally. Okay, so the Russian says this, all right? So that's why you bring him to the table and say, okay, where can we meet in the middle? That's why, but you're not even listening. You don't even want like listen to what they're trying to
The
say.
Russians
And you don't
said
even
that
want to
this
listen. No,
territory
but
is a
let me
precondition for
finish.
conversations. How do you meet in the middle with that?
No, but you bring them to the table in the first place, and if they don't, like, if you don't agree at all, at least you go back to war. But these people, to begin with, they didn't want to bring the Russians to the table. You didn't, and to begin with, you don't even want to listen to what I have to say. Forget about even the Russians, man. You don't even have to look. That's how much.
Honestly, you're right. I don't really want to listen to what you have to say. This is the third conversation, and I haven't heard anything of interest from you on the war. I'm a warmonger. I'm a warmonger. Yes. Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you think Hezbollah should strike Israel?
What's that got to do with like?
No, I'm just asking you. I'm just asking you if you do think Hezbollah should strike Israel to support the Palestinian resistance, Mr. Peaceman. Awful long silence.
If I have to decide, I would prefer peace in general. Like, I would prefer, the ceasefire than all of it.
Okay, so if the Israelis said give like half of, the West Bank to Israel, and we will accept peace, you would be like, it is what it is.
No,
like, if those were the options.
I would bring the Israelis to the table in the first place. I would bring the Israelis to the table in the first place. Okay. And I would like the war to stop. I would like the war to stop because there's 30,000 people dead. I know 40,000 actually right now. It's 40,000 people dead, 14,000 children. Yeah. People want ceasefire now. That's the beginning to begin with. But no,
so you don't believe Hezbollah should get involved in the war? They should stop bombing Israel? I don't.
No, but Israel's bombing them in the first place. That's why, and then Israel.
Hezbollah bombed Israel after October 7th happened. Then Israel starts bombing Palestine, and so then Hezbollah starts bombing Israel in response, and then Israel bombs Hezbollah in response.
Exactly. If Israel is not coming to negotiate at the table, then that is yeah. But if not, though.
Yeah, but if Israel's first demand was give us southern Lebanon, and then we will talk about peace because if you talk to the radicals in the Israeli government, like Ben Gvir, they want to invade southern Lebanon and take southern Lebanon, which was the goal of the 2006 invasion, but they failed to do.
Yeah, we talk to begin with. Yeah, we talk to there's a ceasefire first. Then we talk.
The Ukrainians and the Russians talked before the war. They talked during the war, and since then, if the Russians are saying as a precondition, you need to give us all this land, then if you invite them to the table and that's still their precondition?
Yeah, I'm going to check you on that. I'm going to check you on that. Okay, what were the preconditions?
The preconditions was the giving up of every oblast that the Russians formally claim, which includes the city of Kherson, the city of Zaporizhia, the city of Kramatorsk, the city of Slovansk, the city of Chasiv Yar, and other territories that I cannot remember the villages and names of the smaller cities. But yeah, they want to take all of Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and Crimea as a precondition for conversations, and then base the talks afterward on the Istanbul format. So then the disarmament of Ukraine, and that is the precondition for talking, meaning there could be further demands.
Hold up. Let me read it out right now. Okay, let me read it out. The Moscow was committed to ensuring the unhindered safety withdrawal of Ukraine forces of Kyiv.
Withdrawal from where? Could you say it louder? I couldn't hear you.
So the Moscow was going to an unhindered and safe withdrawal of Ukrainian forces if Kyiv agrees to such a concession. I don't know, but then say, let me just try to find the 10-point plan, the A12 peace plans. Try and look for it.
By the way, that land would be many times the size of Palestine.
Okay, so this is it. It comes from China, actually. Okay, so 1, respecting the sovereignty of all countries, abandoning the Cold War mentality, ceasing hostilities, resuming peace talks, yeah? Resolving the humanitarian crisis. 6, protecting civilians and prisoners of war, keeping nuclear power plants safe, reducing strategic risks, facilitating grain exports, stop unilateral sanctions, so stop the sanctions, keeping industrial and supply chains stable, promoting a post-conflict restoration. So I don't hear anything about, we have to get I'm pretty sure the Russians are not that crazy either.
Did you skip? I heard you reading it. I heard you're not, I'm sorry, I'm not fucking stupid. I heard you reading it at the start where he was saying, Russia demands the withdrawal from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what they were asking to withdraw from? Zaporizhia, Kherson. Why did you mutter that out? But then when it came to the rest of the plan, you said it out boldly. What was that?
No, it says key points, and it says Russian state.
What does it say about withdrawing from these territories? Well, why did you mutter that out? He said withdraw, and then you went, and then you went to the rest of it, and you went in deep detail about everything else, except for the thing that would mean the displacement of hundreds of thousands of people.
Okay, I got you. Though that's not a good, that's not a good start for peace. But anyway, so I guess they're playing their same games that America playing too.
And now we're gonna move on. Okay, I guess, yeah, that's not good for peace. That's a precondition for talking is giving up your city. Okay, guys, a precondition for discussions with Israel is the giving up of southern Lebanon, and then maybe Israel can discuss everything else. Like this would be a ridiculous precondition. It would be ridiculous on its face as a precondition.
Okay, I got you. I agree with you on that one. I agree with you on that one. But on the other hand as well, neither is the West as well. Neither what you're saying as well. You have what is your preconditions for peace?
What's my preconditions for peace?
The withdrawal of the Russians.
Personally, I'm fine with people coming and talking together. But what I would like to see is the Russians withdrawing from Ukraine. That's what I would like to see. And going back into their country.
But that's not exactly. That is also funny.
Yes,
that's
these two things, the just position and the unjust position, are distant from each other. And the physical conditions mean on the ground that the two people that are advocating for what I think are two different things, I think one thing's a just position, one thing's the not, they just can't see eye to eye, which is why the Ukrainians are aiming for peace talks now that can help set up peace talk in the future, so that when the opportunity presents itself for peace, say that there's a battlefield change, say the two armies slug each other out, etc., then they'll have a framework so they won't have to all get all these suits together and fucking scuttle to try to find something to put together. They'll already have a pre-existing framework, and they won't just be working off the Russian Istanbul framework.
But look, the facts on the ground, though, that a lot of the Ukrainians are tired of this war, right?
What do you want to talk about the facts on the ground? Everybody's tired of the war, but nobody wants to give up their home to get rid of that tiredness.
I mean, they can't find people. They're you know what? Mobilization.
How about instead of I speak about this, we have somebody that's from here speak about this. Hey, you want to come on? You were asking earlier to come on. Do you want to come on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sure. Come over here. Come on. So this guy's great also because he's Lebanese Ukrainian. So he can reach into both worlds here. Sorry. Here you go.
Hello.
Hello, yeah. I can't see his face, actually. Hold on. Let me go on the Discord. Then check you out. All right, anyway, just speak. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't see your face. Yeah. شوية
يا عيب الشوم عليك يا عيب الشوم عليكم يا حرام الشوم. Yeah, so that's first of all. So before I return to the Ukraine thing, I want to tell you this. As someone who's survived the Israelis many times, who's lost friends, who's lost family, who's had people fight the Israelis, I think what you're doing, personally, I don't know what your name is. I don't know the whole ecosystem of this streamers and stuff. But like what you're doing, it's very bad for the Palestinian cause. You're being parasitic.
What am I doing?
And cancerous. First of all,
what am I doing?
Remember everything you said at the beginning of your stream about how Destiny and I forgot the other names of the streamers are shilling for the Israelis. You're doing the exact same with the Russians. And they're.
But no, but what has that to do about the Palestinians, though?
Whole stream for a few hours. I've been silent and have like a few points. So I'll tell you, as someone who's survived, who's had relatives and family occupied by the Israelis and occupied by the Russians, the only difference between the Israelis and the Russians is the Israelis are more honest about their fascism. Okay? Like, I'll tell you, here's the experience of how it happens. A big ass tank comes into your village with a big white letter V painted on it. Out jump Russian soldiers with guns. They shoot your family and they tell you this land now belongs to us. And now, how it happened in Ukraine? Exact same thing. Huh? Notice what I said? Yeah. So you're defending the exact same thing that you were criticizing earlier. Complete hypocrisy. So, like, when I'm listening to you as someone who understands the Palestinian cause, someone who's lived his entire life with Palestinians, someone who's, like right now, one of my childhood friends, one of the most beautiful people I love, is in Gaza, trapped with his 2 young children, newborn children. And I have to look at that. It's a second Mariupol for me. And I listen to people like you talk about Palestinians. Man, do you even know Palestinians in person? صراحة يعني احكيني.
Yeah, I met like Palestinians. I've been to Lebanon too. What's the point?
You've met, but like, have you been, like, have you ever, you know, felt these people so much that it's not just talking points? Because the way you're talking about it, it's absolutely campus.
I'm not talking about
It's
Palestine.
It's a lark for you. It's a lot. You're not a leftist. You're a brown fascist. You're supporting some of the worst fascists in the world. You're supporting some of the worst imperialism in the world. Listen,
my guy, can you stop talking? Can you stop insulting me? I thought we were supposed to have a talk. I can't even speak. You're insulting me. Come on, man. Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. So I thought we were having a conversation, man. You coming up and saying, "Oh, you're cancerous." This is all right. Let me finish. Okay, number one, I didn't speak that much about Palestine this time.
It's not that your position on Ukraine is what makes you cancerous about Palestine. Anyone who doesn't know about Palestine and listens to your dumbass and then says, "Oh, of course the Israelis are out." If this guy's like, listen to what this guy's saying about Ukraine, of course he's gonna be wrong about Palestine. This is what I mean.
Okay.
This is why people like Jackson Hinkle,
isn't Zelensky supporting Israel? Yeah, isn't Zelensky supporting Israel? Yes or no?
No.
Yes. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, exactly.
What's this guy's name؟ شو اسمك اخي اعذرني يعني عم بتمسخر عليك بس والله انه مسخره كل شيء عم تحكيه مسخره يعني
انجلش انا ليست تحكي عربي كويس انا عايش من امريكا.
His Arabic's horrible.
Patrick's Arabic is better than this guy's.
معلش اذا بدك تحكي عن فلسطين
وعن القضيه الفلسطينيه تعلم احكي عربي بالاول. معلش يعني لا تاخذنا. الله العظيم يعني والله دوختونا يعني.
Speak English and so I can understand. I'm just half Arab. I wasn't born there either, so don't worry about it.
I'll tell. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about how what I think from living and surviving the Russians. I think the way the Ukrainian people are resisting Russia, the way Ukrainian institutes are resisting Russia, the way Ukrainian civil society is resisting Russia. It should be an example for how Palestinians should be fighting and resisting Israel. Not with fucking chicken shit, fascist Islamic mafia organizations like Hamas. Like, you've ever lived in a place with Hamas? يعني انت مرة عايش حدهم لما بيكونوا عندك بالحارة? Like you don't know what you guys are talking about. Like listening to you,
it's just fucking, Jesus Christ!
You live in like an imaginary world built up by I don't know, like what's lowest tier bullshit propaganda. Like you talk about the mainstream media. And
Can I speak? Can I speak?
Okay,
all right. I will speak. Number one, okay. I'm not here because I'm not here to make excuses for the Russian cause. The thing that pisses me about Ukraine is being used as cannon fodder. And number two, like Ukraine, everybody.
Shut up.
Can I
You don't know shit.
You're not letting me talk.
You're not gonna talk. I'm gonna first talk about the first point you made, and we'll return to this. Ukrainian being used as cannon fodder. We're not being used as cannon fodder. Fuck you. We're not cannon fodder. We don't give a shit about NATO. We don't give a shit about America. We give a shit about our villages, about our families. We're standing up against the Russians because the Russians are the most brutal fascists in the world right now. My family lived next to ISIS.
Yeah, 14,000 people died.
ISIS don't compare to Russians. ISIS don't compare to Russians. ISIS didn't rape the babies. Russians raped the babies. Russians raped
then what do you
the
make
babies.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're a fucking child, man. Inshallah.
You're a fucking child. You're a fucking liar. You're a fucking...
I don't know what you believe in, buddy, but like, I really hope like, I don't know, something gets into your skull or your soul or your heart or whatever, because what you're doing is horrible. Like you're
a liar. You're a liar. You said Zelensky doesn't support Israel.
I didn't vote for him. I voted for the other ass. I thought at the time it was better. I live in a free country. I can look. My name is Nizar al-Rifai. Openly, I can tell you, Mr. Zelensky, fuck you. You're not doing well enough on the war. If I did this in Russia, if I was a Russian and saying this to my Russian president, they would come through the next day. So please shut up. Stop. Like you guys are.
You're not even letting me talk to him. Look, this has become an Arabic television show. It's an Arabic television show, man. Arabic television show. Like this is what it's becoming.
You want me to shake the table and stuff?
Anyway, man, like let's not make this an Arabic television show. Let's can I just talk? Can I just say, okay, I'm here to talk about what is the path forward for peace.
Go listen on the other PC.
The path forward to peace. Yeah, I'm talking about the path forward to peace, and then he goes around like with warmongering, and then you come around and also warmongering.
You didn't even look at the map of Ukraine. Like you're talking about, Russia's talking about Ukraine surrendering Zaporizhia and surrendering Kherson. Have you ever looked at a map of Ukraine, brother? Wait, Dylan, can I open a map of Ukraine? Like show him what peace talk is. Are we talking about?
Okay, what is your plan for peace? That's what I want to talk about, Dylan. Like, what is your plan for peace?
Our plan for peace, keep hitting Russia until they get out. Because they have no way forward militarily. They have no way forward politically. They are losing this war. That's it. That's our plan for peace. Keep destroying Russia until they're out of our land.
Why aren't you fighting? Why aren't you in the front lines?
Me?
Why aren't you in the front lines? Yes.
Because it's not my turn yet. Because I live where I'm registered. Because you're an idiot. See, you're brainwashed. You think every Ukrainian male is out there be on the front. No, man. We can do a lot of damage in the rear as well. Yes, for every guy on the front, there's 10 guys in the rear doing stuff.
There's shortage of men. Go and die, man. Go and die. Go fight Russia, man.
Yeah, we are fighting Russia. The Russians are here.
Russia is not losing them all. That's what I'm saying. People up there, they are delusional. They are delusional.
Yeah, but we did fight the Russians. The Russians were in this village. The only reason my family stayed is because we survived the Israelis, because we knew what it was like to fucking fight a fascist army, to stand up to them. So, yeah, okay, let's go.
America's supporting America.
Yes, come on. Please tell us, Mr. Peaceman, Mr. Wise Leftist Fighter, Revolution. Yes. Palestine, Lakroh, ya Zalami.
Okay, number one.
Go ahead, come on.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to know why? Because when my relatives from South Ukraine, from Zaporizhia, from the area that Putin wants for us to give up, we still have hope that we're gonna see them, that they're not gonna live under this fascist imperialist invasion. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Dylan,
what do you think about LonerBox? What do you think about LonerBox?
He has no talking points. You know, he's talking to reality in the face. You know, the 10 points of bullshit propaganda he read on Twitter. Like, it's not gonna say. He doesn't know what to say. Here you go. Finish your stream, buddy.
And
look, guy, I apologize for being mean, but like, seriously, like, think about it. Look at the stream in the future.
I think you should talk to LonerBox. Actually, I think you should talk to LonerBox.
No. I publish off-pitch research. I have my work. I'm not much of a camera guy, but Dylan's a great guy. He asked me like, this guy is talking about Palestine and Ukraine. I thought, oh, maybe he actually has some talk about Palestine. No, guy, parasitic, very evil what you're doing.
Oh, I'm very evil, huh? Okay, that's good for you. Okay.
Hey, I'm back. Hello.
That was
so how'd your
wild,
conversation go? You have a nice chat?
Dude, man, that turned into an Arabic television show, man. Like, this is the problem with Arab people. Like, I'm going to, like...
This is the problem with Arab people?
Yeah, why not? I can say that as an Arab. I can say there's a problem with Arab people.
Gotcha.
Look, if you watch Arabic television show, when they go to discuss politics, they get into fist fights. Or like actually some guy even pulled up a gun one time. But yeah, like this is ridiculous, man. Like he came out there just insulting me. And then, just, anyway. But
well,
it was pretty wild though.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We were talking about Ukrainian perspective. And I thought, who's somebody who's seen a lot of war, seen the Israeli invasion of Lebanon, seen the Russian invasion of Ukraine, who's living here now, who could maybe give comment. And he wanted to, so I called him over.
Okay, so like let me be like the bigger guy and like just talk about peace. Okay, like just a couple of points to you.
Let me be clear with you. You can never be the bigger guy.
Okay, good for you. That's what I'm trying to make peace. You say you can never be the bigger guy. Okay,
no, I'm not just on this issue, man. Like I gotta be for real. I don't think you genuinely care about this issue. I genuinely think. I think I care about this. No, because I don't want to go into nuclear war because of this shit. Ukraine didn't end in the geopolitical box that is convenient at the moment, and so Ukraine is, because it is an ally of the United States, due to part of the aesthetics, due to the slowness of the left to be able to turn to actually support this resistance struggle, due to the left's forgetfulness about the importance of nuclear non-proliferation, to a bunch of issues, just campism, Russophilia within the left, a whole bunch of things, that the left has been very particularly weak to fight against a particular empire, even though they have the tools to do it and our country committed to do it over 30 goddamn years ago in pursuance of a very righteous goal, which is making sure that these nuclear weapons don't blow us all to smithereens. So I do get pretty annoyed when the first time I talk to you, you just miscite data, and question Ukrainian deaths and whether the war is really all that bad. And then when the war is shown to be bad, you reject it. You reject it for 2 hours. Second conversation is about proving that Palestine's more important than Ukraine, even though more people have died in Ukraine. The war going on in Ukraine now is the largest war in the world. Is going to have gigantic effects for the future of Europe. I hate this comparison. It's like, oh, we need to balance these two against each other. We need to argue how's the suffering of the people of Sudan and at the hands of the RSF factor in this? What about the suffering of the people of Myanmar? Oh, I mean, they're less important than Palestine too. Palestine's more important than everything. Palestine's the most important thing in the world. Everybody else could just get fucked because Palestine. All of these people matter.
That's what I said.
Hate that mentality.
You're making shit up. You're making shit up. Like, anyway, look, keep hanging out with
stuff you talk
Rock.
about. To be clear, the first time we talked, we start talking about Bucha, we start talking about massacres, and you're like, who cares? That gave me a bad read on you immediately. That's 100% how you talk about it.
That's not what I said.
We were talking about the deaths, and you were like, this data's bullshit. You told me it was bullshit. You said, nope, this data's no, and we continue to talk about it, and for the entire conversation, you either questioned the death data, or you said it wasn't real.
There's a lot of lies going on. So
you just called it a lie on its face? You just called it a lie on its face, even though the data was 100% accurate? And we could talk about the data again?
By NATO?
By NATO? No, by the Associated Press, by independent journalists who have had to track with satellite data the expansion of mass graves around cities like Mariupol.
Occurred is occurred.
Dylan, please make that dude a regular and a YouTube channel.
The Tsar's off screen talking about how his family was killed in Bucha, man. Like the Izium, there's people this household knows of people who's at Izium that were dumped in those mass graves. Like this is like substantial deaths. And you tried to make it like less people had died in Ukraine than in Palestine. And that was completely wrong.
2 million people, 2 million, like let's do percentages. 2 million people in 8 months, out of 2 million people, 40,000 in 8 months. Are you fucking shitting me?
What are you trying to do? I never said that.
Then stop saying that. What I was trying to make that the Israelis are fucking butchers more than the Russians. And then you look at the numbers fucking prove it.
We tried to make it sound like that you tried to degrade Ukrainian suffering to prop up Palestinian suffering.
No,
that's my ultimate problem with you. Is that in every way you interact with the Ukraine war, you're trying to degrade Ukrainian suffering in order to prop up Palestinian suffering.
I'm trying to degrade the Israelis.
It is pitting two groups of oppressed people against one another. It's gross. It's anti-leftist. Honestly, I think it hinges of nationalism. That as a leftist, I think maybe should offend both of us.
I came here to talk peace, and then this is what you get. Like you see, this.
I don't like after 3 conversations with you. Every time you come with no substance. It's all aesthetic. And this conversation was the aesthetic of peace. It's the same problem again.
No, it's not about the aesthetic peace. It's not about the aesthetic peace. What is your peace plan with Russia?
What's my peace plan? My peace plan, if you wanted my genuine pitch, if I could make one pitch to the Russians,
because you're not making sense. There's no way.
You just have, okay, never mind.
You're not pushing them back. When's the last time they pushed them back? When's the last time the Russian army got pushed back?
The last time the Russian army got pushed back? Oh, that'd be in Volochansk. I was there on the ground filming that, actually. So I can tell you.
When was that?
Like 2 weeks ago?
Bullshit, like
what do you mean bullshit? It's like history. That's like common knowledge. And I was there, you fucking moron. I filmed it. You want to ask the source? The source is me, cunt. I saw it.
You're talking about they got repelled. They didn't
take over. They tried to take the city of Volchansk. They got repelled, and then they got pushed back. The Ukrainian army took back territory. The Russians are falling back in some areas right now. It's not only there. I just got back to Limon. I was with the BMP fire team. They took back a kilometer. And when you talk about taking land back, how long was it until the French took back territory seriously from the Germans? How long was it before the Russians took territory seriously? There's a bunch of facts how much territory was captured in the last 8 months by this side. That's a very reductive way to view the war, and your estimation was not even accurate. I picked this up from Volochansk. This is a Lancet. I saw it myself.
Oh, good for you. What do you want to know? Like, okay, you know what? I think, basically you want as many Ukrainians to die because your friend actually, hopefully, he will also go to the war, to the front and die as well because
he says he doesn't want my friend dies in the war. Well, so you don't care. You don't care. Yo, I'm pro peace. I hope you die. If he's a gunner, with the fucking the worst stereotype of a campus lefty I've ever seen put into like real, just manifest.
Well, like, this is your peace talk. This is your peace talk. This is your peace talk.
This is your peace talk. You're talking about wanting to watch Ukrainians because they disagreed with you on the internet. Immediately, you have one debate with the Ukrainian and you start wishing death upon them like you're on Russian state TV.
Oh boy, man! He started to come out with the curses anyway. Like my point was, what is what concessions would you make with Russia?
And then at the end, he apologized for being mean after you talked ignorance about the country that he's in that's being bombed, and then you wished death upon him.
No, I was saying, my point is, you would also probably die.
How could you think that I think that how could you imagine anyone is viewing you from a perception of he genuinely cares about these Ukrainians? When this is how you talk about them, man.
I was talking about you will probably die.
I'm here. These are my friends. I talk to them about stories like that, and I want them to be returning home. My fixer Bogdan, he's displaced from the city of Donetsk. If the Ukrainians don't take it back, he'll never see his home again. This has real stakes that makes people consider things outside of your tears for the Ukrainian people, followed by your condemnation of them to death.
I'm saying if he continues that way, he's going to die. If he's going to go to the front line, what do you think is going to fucking happen? Are they taking back land? How many lands are
they have taken back. What do you mean? If you're
they're other fucking people. They're other fucking people. They're other people. They're other fucking people.
Again, I'm not gonna. It's his life, man. You want to talk to him about that? You got to talk to him. Or you got to talk to me.
But yeah, sure, no.
But if you want to talk,
yeah, I'll say him.
All right, will you die for Ukraine?
Look, Burni,
would you die for it? Would you look anti-Muslimin? So you would die for the Jew?
That's none of your business. Yes, when the Russians are okay. Look, buddy.
So you would die for the American government. You would die for the American government. You would die for a Jew, and you would die for the Christian country of Ukraine. Yeah. You would die for the Jew, and then you would die also for the Christian country.
Anti-Christian, I don't know. He's just being yeah. Would you die for a Jew? Like, who the fuck talks like that, buddy?
What is that question?
Who talks like that?
Yes or no? Would you die for Zelensky? Yes or no?
No, of course I want to die. Who gives a shit about Zelensky?
Why would you die for Ukraine? Why would you die for Ukraine? Who do you die for? Azov? Who do you die for? Azov?
Let me finish. Before you start running your mouth out, the place we're in right now, it was in 2022. This area was being besieged from two sides from the Russians. We had 4 BTH. You're probably okay. I'm not gonna insult you. You don't know what BTH is, but basically it amounts to around over 3,600 soldiers and hundreds of tanks. They were coming into this direction to occupy this area. Our Arab side of the family stayed because we're used to sleeping under shelling and under explosions. It wasn't new for us. The Ukrainian side of the family, the women, the children, the old people, they left us. And we stayed here. And we weathered the worst attack in the history of Europe since World War II. So stop doing the trenches. Your entire understanding of this war is primitive. You're like a child.
Would you die for it, though? Would you die for it?
For what? You don't know what you're talking about. Would you die for Zelensky?
Would you die fighting the Russians?
Fuck him.
Exactly. You're fucking weak. You wouldn't die. So, prove my fucking point. You're not a man enough to fucking die for this war. So, many Ukrainians won't die for it either, you motherfucker. So, they should shut the fuck up and sign the fucking peace deal.
The worst Russian.
Fuck off.
He's like, you wouldn't die against the Russians. Okay. Okay, buddy, let's go. Let's see what a great fighter you are and show us the cause and show us everything.
I just wanted to be on the record that he did recently in private. He was off stream, hey, actually, I'm going to go join the resistance. I'm going to Gaza tomorrow. So he's actually consistent because he is going to Gaza tomorrow, I assume.
No, but I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not asking for that kind. I'm asking for peace, though. You're asking for war. You're asking for war. You're asking for war. So you're asking for war.
What are you doing this for? Are you being paid? I know the Russians.
No, I'm not being paid.
That would be
Fuck out of here, man.
Very bad investment.
He's paid.
Okay. You want the Dylan? He won the debate. I want to go away in shame. I have no point talking to him anymore. Good luck with this.
Wow. You know, this was a great call, personally. I think this, I think we made a lot of progress towards peace today. And
you don't listen, man. Anyway, but like, yeah, it's your fault, man. You guys don't want to talk about peace. No, okay. Look, I wanted to just ask you what concessions you make, and then you want off, man. That's it. And then he went off too, so I went off as well.
No, dude, don't.
Anyway, so what concessions would you make? All right, let's go. Let's go.
Just win that direction.
Okay.
And then you wish death upon my friend, and I was like, well, you know, Mr. Peace just wishing death upon Ukrainians. You know, I think that was a mistake. Pretty bad.
I was a mistake. It was a mistake. Well, I can't take it back. There's no take back. It was a mistake. I made a fault. It was my bad. I said I made a mistake. Okay. That's it. All right. Cool.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. So, would you make any concessions to the Russians? That's the last question.
I mean, there are certain concessions you could make that.
No NATO in Ukraine. No NATO in Ukraine. Yes or no? That concession.
Are you gonna let me answer the question? I was about to talk.
Okay, all right. Okay, cool. Go ahead.
The concessions I would make. By the way, I would want NATO in Ukraine, just to be on the record. Okay.
Okay.
So
all right.
The concessions I would make would be things like no strategic nuclear weapons in Ukraine, because these are the big things that the Russians are saying that they're scared of happening. And if we make strong commitments to them, then Putin could turn to his people and say, hey, at least we achieved this, right? And it wouldn't just be things like that. I could maybe, if I really made it a real pitch, I'd be like, what about dual citizenship in places like Crimea? You know how people have like both British and Irish citizenship in like Northern Ireland? What if a return to Ukrainian Crimea gave dual citizenship to people who wanted it in occupied territories? So that could be that, hey, look, you have that respect that you also always wanted the Russian speakers. You saved the Russian speakers. A bunch of things that will allow everybody to return to their goddamn homes, and would also be able to placate the Russians in some way when it comes to their nationalist fervor, so they don't completely feel like they're putting their tails between their legs. If I was to make a genuine attempt right now, because I think if you ask Ukrainians, a decent amount of them would think, hey, this war goes on for another 2-3 years, even if we win, is 100,000 Ukrainian lives worth not having this dual citizenship thing, not making Russian this like language weird thing that we'd, but maybe we get all the land back and the Russians leave and we can join NATO, but we no nuclear weapons and no Western bases, maybe stuff. These would be moderate compromises that allows Ukraine to get its territory back, allows people to die, that would respect international norms that I would want to aim towards. But I am also too afraid of Russia invading Ukraine again due to their recent historical record to not put Ukraine in some sort of defensive alliance that would guarantee that Russians would be too scared to invade them again.
Okay, well, at least you made a little concession, but yeah, I don't think it's still like, just wishful thinking, I would say. So it's not realistic, I would say so, but I guess sooner or later, I guess, not unless you destroy Russia, you have to make concessions. But like, I mean, the goal is to destroy Russia, which I think that's the goal is, and the Ukrainian people
are the goal could just
be
to get the Russians out of Ukraine. Like, Russia doesn't have to, as a state, be destroyed for them to just leave Ukraine. I mean,
that is number one, America's enemy, though, and I think that's the goal.
Well, I mean, like, I think them invading, starting the largest war in Europe since World War II is them kind of falling on the sword. And America is shoving it in a little bit more. The answer isn't to push down on the sword deeper and deeper and deeper. The answer is to get off the sword. I mean, if I asked you, what should America's policy been in Afghanistan after 20 years of war, would you say 5 more years, a little bit more investment? No, you'd probably say, well, I think we should probably, cut our losses and leave, because 1,000 more dead American boys in the sand is probably not going to achieve all that much. At least that was the perspective of most Americans. You can ask defense officials what their opinion was, but that would be like my advice to the Russians.
Okay, and my advice, not to the Russians, but just to people in general, that it is that this war is a war like that for the rich and the powerful, like they're fighting each other for for hegemony and empire. Right. But let me just finish. Can I just finish? Jesus Christ!
I'm complimenting you. I'm saying that you're both brave and stunning.
Okay, thank you. And I think we need to stop this war, and because before it gets too big, and before we lose people we love as well, and before World War III starts. And that is my.
Hey, the Ukrainians just struck Russia with like Western weapons for like 2, 3, 4 months in a row now. It's like going on. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a while now. Hit a lot of targets, not only in Belgrade region but in Kursk. When's World War III happening?
when France goes in, I think like you should hold back the
macaroni.
macaroni.
What does that mean?
Yeah,
Wait, you mean like when
they're talking about going in? That's what they said.
going like they're gonna invade Russia, or do you mean they're gonna put Ukraine in like in air defense and stuff and training? I think it's training. You think that when French troops enter Ukraine, that's when World War III occurs? I want to hear a hard commitment to that, because if that happens, then we can come back and we can be like, hey, there are French troops training Ukrainian soldiers in Lviv and in Ivano-Frankivsk, and World War III didn't happen. Well, why is that? Did they miss the button? Was the button broke?
No, I'm not talking about I'm talking about that it could lead to that, because if French troops get killed over there, or French troops do secret missions over there, I would actually macaroni actually
you
was
mean the escalation ladder, but that's true of any crisis, that any number of events like that's true about Israel, Palestine, that's true about like Taiwan and a million different issues, but that's also true of like the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's also true of the war in Vietnam, the war in Korea, and many wars that didn't go that way. So it's like, do we just give up all of our priorities because of the overarching threat that Western diplomats and Russian diplomats and Chinese diplomats have worked for decades to make sure it doesn't destroy the world? What did Lyndon B. Johnson said? He said for like 20 odd years, we've stood at the brink of disaster and we've stopped going over the precipice, something along those lines. But they've done it, and they've done it for 80 years now. The deterrent is strong, and I want to protect it by standing with Ukraine, because Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons. They gave up their nukes. And if the lesson from this war is give up your nuclear weapons or don't have nukes and your territory is forfeit, and even if you signed treaties guaranteeing it, what message does that send to countries like South Korea? What message does that send to countries like Iran? What message does that send to other countries that are trying to go through the nuclear proliferation process or are considering it? I don't think it sends a positive message. And it certainly doesn't send a positive message to any tin-pot dictator that has an ethnic conflict on their borders that they want to resolve with force. And then all they have to do is kidnap a few nuclear scientists and get the process started. And hey, nobody can do shit.
Well, I think America has been the one invading and killing a lot of people. It's not been Russia. I think America has been and nobody has
What? Wait, no. Did America go to war?
For the last couple of 20 years? Yeah, I think so. Maybe 30 years.
Somebody in chat, could you send me a link on that, please? I want to do some research into that. I had no clue. I mean, that's the only reason it would be relevant to this conversation. To America's crimes is because I would be literally brain dead and have just come out of a coma from the year, I guess, 1600 before America was alive. And that would be the only reason you'd be bringing it up.
And Dylan Burns, I just want to criticize something about your fans. They were saying a lot of funny shit about Muslims and Islam before, and now when I say, "Oh, would you die for a Jew?" to a Lebanese guy because he's Lebanese, or they're all like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he said that." But all those Islamic jokes are funny, though, guys.
Would you die for a Jew?
Yeah, I didn't say that. Would you die for a Jew?
I missed that.
Why not?
That's fucking crazy. Oh my God. No wonder. You're over there chilling. You know what he's doing right now? He's just vibing over there. What does it say? Winners celebrate, losers explain themselves. I forget what the saying is, but explain why when you say, would you die for a Jew, that wasn't anti-Semitic. No, please talk all day.
No, look, I'm just making a point though.
About Jews.
No, because he's Lebanese. He's Lebanese, and then
the Jews. This is their point.
My guy. Can I just finish this question? He's Muslim. He's a Muslim. He's a Lebanese Muslim. And right now, what's going on between his country and Israel is going on. Zelensky is a Jew that supports Israel and is probably supports Zionism as well. So in that sense, the way I say, would you die for a Jew and would you die for a Christian? Says,
all this fucking
that's it.
Joke is enough for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Anyway,
buddy. Good. I'm a Ukrainian citizen, and I don't like it when people like you say he's Muslim or he's whatever. Your understanding of
that does matter. That does matter, though. That does matter. That does matter. That does matter. That does matter.
I don't want to talk about this. What you said was horribly anti-Semitic, offensive on every level, as Ukrainian, as Lebanese, as Muslim, as Christian, as Jewish.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no. Yeah.
So, bye.
Yeah. Good for you. Bye.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back. I'm a leftist. I like the platform people of color. Sorry.
No, dude, man. Like I have nothing against the Jews, but I just give him a point though. But but what is going on in Lebanon right now, and as the landscape is that, and also with the American imperialist that is going on in Lebanon, he's that's why I was just asking him the question. Anyway, that's it. So basically, what I'm trying to.
So to be clear, you've had one conversation with the Ukrainian today, and you asked him how he was serving the Jews, and you wished doom upon him.
Stop. That's not what I said. Did I say that? I said, would you die for him?
Oh yeah, that makes it much better. I misread it.
What he said.
Yeah.
Absolutely what I'm thinking away from.
My goodness. Well, anyway, I think we had a great. I think we had a lot of ground towards peace today. I think I'm gonna ask everybody in chat to download the entire VOD, post it to Twitter, and at the Russian and Ukrainian foreign ministries, so we can get the peace process started. So we could, really get it chugging along. So all the geniuses over there can hear this great commentary, and they can start moving us towards a better tomorrow.
Well, you don't want peace, innit? Like that's what anyway, he's not for peace, so I think he wants to die anyway. He wants to die, but he doesn't want to die, but he's for war, so he wants other people to die for him. But anyway, it's crazy. But anyway, good night.
That's crazy, dog. Would you say that about like somebody who's like their country gets invaded? Like, I don't know, Poland, any other country gets invaded, and like somebody is not at the front line right now, and you're just like, wow, you want to continue to defend against the Russians? You don't want to just give up all this territory that they're asking for? I guess that makes you a coward, or that means you don't want to, like, nobody would you say about anything else? Anyone else, really?
This war started because they want to become part of NATO and EU.
No, this war started because they tried to join the European Union. After the Russians said they could, and then the Russians said never mind. After Viktor Yanukovych promised that we would not even join the EU, not me, but the Ukrainians, join the association agreement. He goes back on his promise. He brutalizes protesters, murders those protesters, murders 700. He flees the country. Russians invade and take Crimea. That's what started the war. They were not going to join NATO. Don't talk about, it's about NATO. They're going to join NATO. They weren't going to join NATO in 2008. The Germans didn't want them. The French didn't want them. The Hungarians certainly didn't want them unless you thought they were going to convince Viktor Orban. So no. In 2014, this war was not started by NATO expansion. This war was started by the Ukrainians trying to increase their economic integration with the European Union, which the Russians said they could do until they said they couldn't.
Okay, anyway, it's been going on long enough, man. But anyway, it's good talk, very wild talk. Anyway, let's just post it anyway, whatever. Bye.
Bye-bye. Stop soaking LonerBox, okay? Can you do that for me? Can you stop stalking LonerBox too? Can we get a commitment to that? You just stop. Because I'm telling you, man, handing out the pamphlets, it's not chill, dog. Oh, he's gone.